Hello everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Today is 8th of July. This is me, Manvi Srivastav, welcoming you to Aitareya Institute, where we will be covering current affairs for the day. Let us take a closer look at the first current affair. First is, in India, voting cannot remain merely a statutory right. This raises the question, is voting a statutory right? Yes, voting is a statutory right and not a fundamental right yet. And this discrepancy or this anomaly is being discussed now and heavily debated. The former CEC, the former Chief Election Commission, has revived this constitutional debate whether the right to vote should be raised or elevated to the status of a fundamental right from a statutory right. So the key word here is that voting is a statutory right, is not a fundamental right. These questions are asked many times in the exams. In preliminary exam, you must have seen questions like which of these is not a fundamental right, and in the options there's a right to vote, and people often think that right to vote is a fundamental right because it is key to democracy, and then they mark the incorrect answer. So let us take a closer look at this. In India, voting cannot remain merely a statutory right because of the glaring legal anomaly. There's a difference in two legal things. First of all, that casting the ballot, that is right to vote, is being described as statutory. This is described as statutory, but the very in elements of it, the very aspects of it, like making a right choice, secrecy of ballot, the right to reject the candidates or nota, these are all made fundamental gradually, step by step, under the freedom of speech and expression. So elements have been made fundamental, but in entirety, the right to vote has not been made fundamental. And this discrepancy exists, and this causes a legal anomaly. And this is actually funny enough to look at. Let us look at it. Glaring legal anomaly that the act of casting a ballot continues to be described as statutory, while the Supreme Court has progressively constitutionalized, made constitutional, all the essential facets like the right to make an informed choice, secrecy of ballot, right to reject candidates, all of these under freedom of speech and expression. Now this becomes very important. Under which right do these come? These come under the freedom of speech and expression. Let us take a closer look at the status of voting rights in India. I have already marked a few important things. The traditional position is that the right to vote is statutory and it has been created by legislation and not through constitution. Again, the origin of electoral rights is legislative. It has been created by laws that have been created by parliament, specifically the election laws. So again, the right to vote and contest election, the right to vote and contest election exist only because the parliament created them through the election laws. Now we have parliament's regulatory power, and even the small things in these rights like prescribing the qualifications, the procedure of election, the disqualifications, all of these are being controlled through legislation, and these are parliament's regulatory power and not the courts. So this is the current status, and there's certain constitutional basis of this right, not complete constitutional origin and not a complete constitutional basis, and it has nowhere been mentioned in the constitution, but a slight small constitutional basis exists, which is called the universal adult franchise, article 326. In article 326, it is guaranteed the universal adult suffrage for Lok Sabha and state assembly elections, and these form the constitutional foundation of the voting rights. So why not in entirety change the right to vote from statutory to fundamental right? Also, there's a shift in model jurisprudence, like the Supreme Court judgments have increasingly recognized voting as a constitutional right, step by step, aspect by aspect, and facet by facet. Now, let us look again at why voting cannot remain just statutory. First of all, it does have a direct constitutional source, a small basis. So, in entirety, it should have a constitutional source because the election laws, they only implement the mandate, and the Representation of People Act, it only regulates voting, but it does not create a right to vote. So, there's a need to create a right to vote, which is supposed to be fundamental. Hence, there's a need to create a direct constitutional source for the right to vote. Then there is the consistency with the basic structure that is required. The basic structure involves democracy, and democracy needs the right to vote to be protected. Elections cannot exist, free and fair elections cannot exist until the voters are being protected by the constitution. So democracy is the part of the constitution's basic structure, and right to vote should be integral to constitutional governance. Free and fair elections cannot exist without constitutionally protected voters. Then we have the right to reject, that is nota, none of the above. So interestingly, right to reject, that is nota, is a fundamental right, but right to vote is not a fundamental right. So Article 19(1)(a) says that nota is a fundamental right. People have the right to reject, but there's nothing that says that people have a right to vote. Okay, so there's a judicial paradox of nota also here. Then the expression of popular sovereignty. So we the people, it describes the sovereign nature of India. And again, we the people do not have a right to vote. Sovereignty is dependent on the right to vote, lying in the hands of the people. Now again, the protection against arbitrary exclusion. Sometimes voters are arbitrarily excluded from the electoral rolls, and sometimes there is a problem with voter registration, and all of these are subject to lawful restrictions but under statutory privileges. These should be under lawful restrictions, and these rulings should be given by the court. Okay, these are very crucial to the democracy. So this right should be made a fundamental right. This is what the article says. Now, important judgments on the voting rights are: number 1, MP Ponnuswamy with returning officer. MP Ponnuswamy versus returning officer 1952. In this, the Supreme Court held that the right to vote and contest election are statutory rights. Statutory. So, first judgment said that it is a statutory right in 1952. In 1982 came another judgment. In this judgment, the court reaffirmed that electoral rights are vital for democracy. They are vital. The court recognized this. But again, they remained statutory. They did not become fundamental here. In 2006, there was again another judgment, Kuldeep Nair versus Union of India. The constitutional bench reiterated that democracy is a part of the basic structure. It did connect the right to basic structure. But again, the individual right to vote flows from statute. It does not come through constitution. Okay. Then in 2003, the court recognized that voters' fundamental right under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. It knows that candidates, the voters' fundamental right, it is a voter's fundamental right to know the candidate's criminal, financial, and educational background, but it is still not a fundamental right to vote. It is a fundamental right to get this information while you're going to vote. But voting itself is not fundamental. How funny is that? Now, see, these are the little fun facts about the legality. This is what makes studying fun for you. Now, let us talk about the next thing. The next one, Nota came in 2013, and then this case, Anup Barnwal case in 2023. Okay, so about Nota and Anup Barnwal, the court recognized the right to reject as protected political expression and later emphasized voting as a constitutional right. Emphasized, but never gave it the status. Okay. So what is the way forward? What should be the way forward? Revisit earlier precedents. The Supreme Court should reconsider the rulings it made earlier. It should remove the inconsistencies between those rulings, and then it should grant the constitutional status to the voting right. Recognizing the core rights, the right of every eligible citizen to vote should receive stronger constitutional protection and a democratic guarantee. Then again, retaining the Parliament's regulatory role. Parliament does have a regulatory role on the right to vote, and that should not be changed. It should not be limited. It should be the Parliament's authority still to regulate the election through the reasonable procedural laws that have been established by the Parliament. Link voting to the basic structure. The right to vote should be viewed as an essential component of democracy, and it should be protected under the constitutional basic structure. It should not just become a fundamental right, it should also be a part of basic structure of the constitution. Adopt a voter-centric approach. The constitutional interpretation should treat citizens as active participants in governance rather than merely the bystanders of the statutory election laws. This part is complete. Let us look at the conclusion of this. The Supreme Court's own evolving jurisprudence has steadily blurred the line between statutory laws. Okay, let me summarize it for you. The Supreme Court has already been recognizing the facets of these rights step by step as constitutional, but the right as statutory. So the lines have been blurred between statutory and fundamental. So there is, again, let us read this. The Supreme Court's own evolving jurisprudence has steadily blurred the lines between statutory rules and constitutional guarantees by protecting the right to an informed choice as a fundamental freedom. Ultimately, judiciary must resolve this legal paradox by formally elevating the right to choose a candidate to the status of a fundamental constitutional right. This was it about the first article. Let us look at the second article. AI governance and the Global South voice. What is the context? The international stakeholders met in Geneva. In Geneva, there was the first UN Global Dialogue on AI, and it discussed AI governance. Okay, let us look at it. Let us take a closer look at it. AI governance in the Global South was the AI governance for the Global South. What are we talking about? We're talking about AI governance for the Global South. What does it represent? It represents an international diplomatic and regulatory effort for what? What is this diplomatic and regulatory effort internationally being placed in? It is being put to place equity, inclusivity, and real world domestic harms at the center of global technology discourse. These should be at the core of the discourse that we take about global technology. Historically, the global AI summits hosted by Western nations have focused on far-off existential and catastrophic risk. But this time, the Global South AI Governance Summit is focusing on equity, inclusivity, and real-world domestic harms, not something catastrophic, existential, or far off. This is more realistic. This is interesting thing about this one. Key data and strategic facts on AI ecosystem. Let us read about the AI ecosystem of the world. The silicon supply chain alignment. India joined the Pax Silica initiative. We have read about this in the past few days. The Pax Silica initiative, aligning with the US-led semiconductor ecosystem and supporting open, innovation-friendly chip manufacturing and technology standards. There's a lot of discussion on semiconductor chip manufacturing in the recent few weeks. You should read current affairs more and more to be aware of these facts. The Global Openness Score. India lowered its Visa Openness Index. India dropped in the Visa Openness Index. It reached the rank of 125, I think. It shows that there is a restrictive access system. It highlights how closed digital ecosystem can limit the innovation, collaboration, and developed participation. Yes, please double check it. I think India's rank has dropped to 125, and last year it was 124. This is as far as I remember. Several structural R&D spending gaps. There's a gap in R&D spending. India spends only 0.65% of GDP on R&D, which is way, way, way below major economies, and this limits the innovation indigenously, the advancement of technological development, and the delay in the gap in global competitiveness. India is left behind in that. The bulk compute packaging target. India's semiconductor sector currently focuses mainly on chip assembly and testing. There's a focus on chip assembly and testing, that is OSAT. OSAT, a recent OSAT facility has been set up in Sanand, Gujarat. Sanand, Gujarat. This is also in news for the past 1 week. This will assemble around 20 crore chips annually using this technology. Okay, let us look at the imperative need for global South-led AI governance. There's a need for global South-led AI governance because rest of the AI governance things are not cutting it right now. Why is this need? To prevent the predatory resource and data extraction. Strong regulations are needed so that the foreign AI firms are restricted from using the local data and the indigenous knowledge without actual consent or without benefit sharing. The second is, okay, let us mark this one as done. Mitigating disproportionate local externalities. What does it mean? There are large AI infrastructure projects, and these consume vast land, water, and electricity. And they create environmental and social cost for the developing countries. These are done by the developed countries, these large AI infrastructure projects, but they affect the developing countries. So there's disproportionate local externalities. These should be mitigated. Okay. This is why the Global South-led AI governance is set up. Again, shielding users from immediate social harms. There are immediate social impacts, immediate social harms by AI, and these are like algorithm bias, misinformation, hate speech, deepfake content. Shielding the users from these biases and these issues, these harms being caused to them. Ensuring fair local economic value accrual. What does it mean? The AI generated economic gains should benefit the local economies also. They should not just flow to the multinational technology firms and companies, their headquarters which are sitting abroad. Even the locals should benefit from them. So ensuring fair local economic value accrual. Preserving independent strategic economy. This is very important. Developing nations should reduce their dependence on big platforms and APIs, and they should protect their technology from the geopolitical and commercial disruptions in the world. Next, we have key initiatives that have been taken so far. First of all is the India AI Impact Summit, number one. This summit promoted what? Inclusive, ethical, and development-oriented AI governance. What was the AI governance like? It was inclusive, it was ethical, it was development-oriented, and this was the India AI Impact Summit. And this emphasized the priorities of the developing nations instead of just the developed ones, which have big AI firms. Second was the UN Global Dialogue on AI. The Geneva Dialogue, we just heard about it some time ago. The Geneva Dialogue, it brought countries together, and what did they discuss together? They discussed the common international principles for responsible AI governance and cooperation. The AI Strategic Dialogue Pact then, it has frameworks like Hiroshima AI Process and New Delhi Declaration. This was highly in news a few months ago. It encourages trusted AI development, safety standards, and international collaborations. Hiroshima AI Process and New Delhi Declaration are part of the AI Strategic Dialogue Pact. Now, the launch of the Sarvam technology, Sarvam language model. This is a language model. Sarvam demonstrates India's capability in AI and language systems. So these AI models are trained on Indic languages and they promote inclusion and linguistic diversity. This is why we say India is a country with unity in diversity, and Sarvam promotes that. It takes different Indic languages, bringing them together, and hence making India seem the way it is, which is linguistically very rich in diversity. Next, we have key challenges that come up in establishing this equitable kind of AI governance. First is the strategic middle power dilemma. India must balance its partnership with the advanced economies and should also represent the interests of the global south or the developing countries. So there's a middle power dilemma which India is standing at. Then we have a high vulnerability to single vendor monopolies. Okay, we depend heavily on few providers specifically that manufacture the chips and the cloud, and they have a monopoly in this market. So we need to mitigate the supply chain risk that can be caused once these uh, these technological firms or these manufacturers can create some kind of hurdle. So when there is monopoly, we are solely depending on one particular firm, and we need to have less dependence on one particular person or a firm. That is why there's high vulnerability and this should be mitigated. A lack of high performance domestic compute. Okay, so there are powerful computing infrastructures in the world, but India has restricted access to them. So India is trying to develop this kind of competitive AI frontier through developing new computing and foundation models. Then we have US disinterest in multilateral rules. United Nations prefers thing. Not United Nations. What am I saying? The US. Huh. The US actually is very disinterested in things that are not going as per the US. It likes things unilateral. And when the United States of America sees things going multilaterally, when various nations are making decisions together, it tends to step out. This is a common pattern observed in the IR. The United States generally prefers flexible domestic regulation over binding global AI governance frameworks, slowing international consensus. It likes things to stay flexible for itself. That is something that we have commonly observed in IR. When you study IR properly through the different faculties, you will understand US outlook better. Then there's a widespread local community displacement. The rapid expansion of the AI infrastructure can lead to land acquisition disputes and community displacement without proper consultation and compensation. Very important, displacement is also caused by AI, right? Then we have the way forward, reasserting technical leadership at Geneva. India should lead the global south countries. Who should lead? India should lead in shaping AI governance based on fairness, digital sovereignty, and public interest. Pooling compute and data resources, developing countries can establish a shared computing facility, data repositories, and interoperable AI platforms. Once these are developed, it will reduce the dependence on the big technological firms. Mandating local value and data accrual. There should be policies that should ensure that the revenues that are being generated and the economic benefits that are being generated through AI, they are fairly and equitably shared with the domestic economies. Okay, mandating local value and data accrual. Enforcing strict local data scraping guardrails. What does it mean? The foreign AI firms should obtain licenses first, and they should also provide fair compensation before they can use the data sets of the locals and the indigenous knowledge for the AI trainings. So there should be strict local data scraping guardrails. Okay, guardrails are what? Protections in place. Rebalancing the national hardware. India should diversify its semiconductor partnership, and there should be domestic manufacturing, open source technology, and it should not depend on monopolistic manufacturing of some big technological firm. As a conclusion, while strategic agreements like Pax Silica, they offer a near-term economic benefit. Of course, it works. It does prioritize economic benefits being shared, but there are foreign corporate profits that are being a priority over the local user protection. So the risk at which the local user is at is not a priority because of the corporate gains that have become a priority. And this is a risk, a big risk to countries that are developing yet. Ultimately, by using the Geneva Dialogue to build a global South unified coalition, India can establish balanced governance standards, and this protect the public safety and secure digital sovereignty in developing nations. Let us take a look at the NCW Women Helpline, a very important news for everybody. 14490. I even want the women to note it down. This is very important. We're going to read it very diligently. The National Commission for Women has highlighted a 24/7 Women Helpline, and the number is 14490. I don't know how effective it will be, but let us see. Let us read about it as aspirants properly. A dedicated digital grievance platform. It provides what? Immediate assistance, so it claims, counseling, and complaint registration for women in distress. What kind of distress? Any kind of distress. So the helpline number is 14490. It is a 24/7 women helpline. It has been highlighted by National Commission or National Commission for Women. It will give immediate assistance, counseling, and complaint registration, all three. The helpline is toll free. Okay, this is another thing. Toll free, operated by National Commission for Women. It will provide digital complaint registration, as we heard, psychological counseling, with referral support also, grievance redressal also. Okay, facing what? Violence, harassment, or discrimination. Aim is to provide immediate, accessible, and confidential support. It will be immediate, it will be accessible, it will be confidential. Women facing violence or other forms of distress like harassment or discrimination. Let us take a look at the key features. Number one, it is 24/7 digital complaint registration. Women aged 18 and above. This is not for children. This is for women of 18 and above. They can register complaints anytime through the toll-free helpline linked to NCW's existing support system. This has been linked to a support system that is already existing in place by the National Commission for Women. Professional psychological counseling. The counseling will be done by trained mental health professionals. They will provide emotional support, crisis intervention, and referral services to other trained counselors. Structured complaint redressal. Complaints are not just analyzed randomly. They will be scrutinized. They will be assigned unique case numbers, and they will be pursued through mediation, then police coordination, statutory monitoring. Monitoring is also very important, and then inquiry committees if and when required. It will be data-driven policy support. The complaint trends are analyzed, trends will be analyzed, data will be recorded. There will be systemic gaps that will be identified, and this will improve the institutional response to these gaps, and this will support the training of police, judicial officers, prosecutors, and other stakeholders to address such kind of issues. Let us look at the significance of it. It provides a single nationwide platform for quick reporting, immediate, we heard about it, reporting of complaints, we heard, counseling, yes, digital complaint, remember, psychological counseling, institutional support, very structured, improving access because it is free. access to legal and administrative remedies also. It is a single nationwide platform, single nationwide, it is same for all the states, all the districts, everything in the country. And it enhances citizen-centric service delivery by integrating technology with grievance redressal, supporting the objective of digital India and women-centric governance. What objective does it support? This is also important for your answer writing. Please note the objectives everywhere, whatever it is related to in whichever mission. So digital India and women-centric governance. These two objectives it will be supporting. Next news we have about Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee. The Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan paid floral tributes to Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee at Uparashtrapati Bhavan on his 125th birth anniversary. Which anniversary? 125th birth anniversary. And who paid the tributes? The Vice President did. Next, who is Shama Prasad Mukherjee, or who was Shama Prasad Mukherjee? First, look at the years. 1901 to 1953. Who was he? An eminent Indian statesman, academician, barrister, a champion of cultural nationalism. What did he find? He found the Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Bharatiya Jan Sangh. And he served as first Union Minister for Industry and Supply, Independent India's first Union Minister for Industry and Supply under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's cabinet. Whenever you open your Lakshmikant and you learn about the history and the making of Constitution, and when you go to the chapter where different portfolios have been allotted to different ministers, pre-independence and post-independence, you will find his name there as the first Union Minister for Industry and Supply in this cabinet of Honorable Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, early life and education. He was born on 6 July 1901 in Calcutta. In where? Calcutta. He was the son of Sir Ashutosh Mukherjee. And who was Ashutosh Mukherjee? He was an educationist and he was a judge of Calcutta High Court. So this is where he was born, in a very educated family. This was his academic record. He graduated from the Calcutta University. He became a Senate Fellow in 1923 and he enrolled as an advocate where Calcutta High Court in 1924. And then the legal and academic milestones of him. After qualifying as barrister at law from Lincoln's Inn, he became the youngest Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University in 1934, the youngest Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University, and he promoted vernacular education, not English education, not Oriental education, vernacular education. Next, what was his political career? Provincial Assembly stint. He was elected to Bengal Legislative Council in 1929 and he later served as the leader of opposition from 1937 to 1941. Then the finance minister of Bengal he became 1941 to 42. 1941 to 42. In A.K. Fazul Huq's Progressive Coalition Ministry handling Bengal's financial administration. This was when he was the finance minister of Bengal. Then the ideological realignment. He joined the Hindu Mahasabha and he became the president of Hindu Mahasabha in 1943 to 46, but he resigned in 1948 over differences regarding inclusive membership. He wanted inclusive membership. Founding the Jan Sangh. In 1951, he founded the Jan Sangh, Bharatiya Jan Sangh, and he became the first president and then of this Bharatiya Jan Sangh, not India. And then he entered parliament through general elections. This was it about his political career. Let us look at his key contributions to India's freedom movement. His resignation over British oppression. He resigned from the position of Bengal's finance minister to protest the British repression in 1942. During what? During the Quit India movement. And he criticized colonial rule in his banned work. This is one of his works. This is very, very, very important. Please start studying in depth. This is one of his works that was banned. A phase of the Indian struggle. This is a very probable questions in UPSC, in PCS, in one-day exams. Relief during the Bengal famine. There was a famine in Bengal. There was no food and people were dying left and right. He organized large-scale famine relief with organizations like Ramakrishna Mission and Mahabodhi Society, with these two. And these provided food, medicines, food. Oh my god, this is so wrong. Let me erase this for you. Okay, this organization provided food, medicines, and shelter. Which organization? The Ramakrishna Mission and the Mahabodhi Society in 1943 Bengal famine. In 1942, he resigned from the position of Bengal Finance Minister. From 1946 to 47, the Bengali Hindu Homeland Movement. He opposed the unified Bengal proposal and he campaigned for the creation of. He opposed this proposal. Don't write he supported. He opposed the unified Bengal proposal. And he campaigned for the creation of West Bengal within the Indian Union. Creation of West Bengal within the Indian Union, and he was successful in this campaign. Okay. Again, Constituent Assembly member. As a member of Constituent Assembly, he contributed to debates on minority rights, language policies, and linguistic preservation. Let us look at his last days and the Kashmir Satyagraha. Have you ever heard of the Kashmir Satyagraha? No? Okay, let us read. It was a satyagraha against the imposition of Article 370. Okay, like it has the tagline called the Ek Desh mein do vidhan, do pradhan or do nishan nahi chalenge. Okay, let us look. Okay, what does it mean? Do vidhan, do pradhan, do nishan. Like in a country, there cannot be two constitutions, two symbols or flags maybe it meant, and two leaders, two different heads of the nations. So he was against Article 370, and that is why he led the Kashmir Satyagraha. In his last days, in 1950, he exited the cabinet. He resigned from Nehru's cabinet over the Liaquat Nehru Pact. And he argued that this pact inadequately protected Hindus in East Pakistan. Not completely protected them, but it was inadequate. Then there was this Satyagraha against Article 370, which is also called the Kashmir Satyagraha. He opposed the Jammu and Kashmir special status. He was against the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, and he popularized the slogan, Ek Desh mein do vidhan, do pradhan or do nishan nahi chalenge. His arrest and martyrdom in 1952. He was arrested after entering Jammu and Kashmir without a permit, and he died in custody on June 23, 1953. And his death intensified the demands for national integration. Now, let us look at this news about INS Mahendragiri F-38. So, Indian Navy is now about to formally commission the INS Mahendragiri or F-38, its sixth project 17A, this indigenous guided missile stealth frigate at Vishakhapatnam, where Vishakhapatnam, this will be formally commissioned, which will be INS Mahendragiri F-38. So this is a state-of-art multi-role stealth frigate. It cannot be discovered easily. Stealth frigate belonging to Nilgiri class. Nilgiri class is project 17A. Just keep remembering these keywords. Nilgiri class, stealth frigate, project 17A. It is designed to operate as a heavily automated, it is automated, not completely manual, heavy combat platform capable of simultaneously engaging threats across air, surface and subsurface warfare dimensions. It can engage threats from air, surface and even subsurface at the same time. Developed and built by this Warship Design Bureau of Indian Navy. Warship Design Bureau of Indian Navy. The shipyard is Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited in Mumbai. Where is it? Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited or MDL is in Mumbai. And WDB is Indian Navy's Warship Design Bureau. It designed it and Madgaon Shipyard actually constructed it. Remember the difference between design and constructed. Designing is planning how it will be made. Constructing is actually making it. Okay. Again, the aim is protect India's sprawling maritime boundaries, protect the maritime boundaries and the sea lines of communication across the Indian Ocean region, the entire communication line. Let us look at the key technical features of it. First is, it is built with an optimized hull geometry that reduces its radar cross section. Its radar cross section is reduced. It uses infrared suppression and flush structural design to mask its acoustic and thermal signatures. So the ship, every kind of ship releases acoustic signatures, some sound waves and some thermal signatures, some heat, which can be tracked. But this One uses infrared suppression and a flush structural design, and this reduces the signature of the sound waves and the heat waves produced by it, and thus it can easily slip past its enemies without being surveillanced, without being detected. This is how it works. Okay, this is called the advanced stealth engineering, passes undetected. 75% indigenous structure. This is very important. It is 75% indigenous structure. Why? We have a Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative in defense, and this supports that initiative. Sourcing steel components, electronics from a vast network of domestic heavy industries and MSMEs. This is how it has been made. The CODOG propulsion system, combined diesel and gas propulsion plant. So it uses highly efficient diesel engines for long range and low speed, and switches to high power gas turbines for rapid high speed. For long and low speed, it has diesel engines, and for high power, it has gas engines. Lethal strike weapon suite. Now it has an array of state-of-art offensive and defensive weapon system. The BrahMos supersonic anti-ship and land attack cruise missile, the Barak 8, keep remembering these names. BrahMos, Barak 8 long range surface to air. Oh my god, again. Okay, I'll just highlight these for you. Okay, first we have the BrahMos. It's a cruise missile. It is anti-ship and land attack cruise missile. The Barak 8, this is long range surface to air missile. Okay, then indigenous heavyweight torpedo launchers. There are what? Torpedo launchers and anti-submarine rocket arrays. What kind of rocket arrays? Anti-submarine. There's an advanced main deck gun for surface intercept. This is not as important. These three are important. Okay. Integrated sensors or EW network. What does it mean? Electronic warfare network. Okay. So there's indigenous combat management system or CMS. The combat management system is indigenous. It takes data and merges it. It takes data from the multifunctional active phased array radar system. Okay, this is the radar system. It produces data. This CMS or combat management system takes that data and it combines it with the electronic warfare suite, and it advances full hull mounted and towed sonar networks. This is how it works. Now let us take a look at the next thing, which is the Project 17A frigates. What are the other frigates in this Nilgiri set? INS Nilgiri F-34, INS Himgiri F-35, INS Udaygiri F-36, INS Dunagiri F-37, INS Mahendragiri F-38, INS Taragiri F-41, INS Vindhyagiri F-42. These are very important. You have to keep looking at it again and again. These are just a few names. These are barely 7 names. Nilgiri, Himgiri, Udaygiri, Dunagiri, Mahendragiri, Taragiri, and Vindhyagiri. You have to keep remembering the name of these because these can be asked in MCQs. Okay, web digistrand. What is it? What is it? Okay, let's see. It is a technology. It is actually a therapy. The US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, is the US Food and Drug Administration. It has approved web digistrand. It is a historic milestone. Why is it a milestone? We'll study. It is the world's first ever approved therapy. It is a therapy based on PROTAC, proteolysis targeting chimera technology. What are all these different words? We have to study these, okay? Be patient. This is the last news today. Web digistrand is a first in class orally administered. It is orally administered. It is a therapeutic molecule. It is given orally. It is designed using PROTAC technology. Instead of merely blocking a malfunctioning protein like traditional inhibitors, it physically hijacks the cell's internal disposal system to completely destroy the disease-causing protein. Okay, so in some mutations, in some issues, cancers especially, there are some proteins. Okay, and these proteins cause the diseases when they are received by the cell. This is the protein and this is the cell. The cell receives the protein and the disease is caused. Traditionally, we have inhibitors. They create a wall between the disease and the protein. Inhibitors stick to the cell outer wall and they prevent the protein transfer to the cell. This is how traditionally the medicines work. But through PROTAC technology, this drug goes in the cell, it hijacks the cell system and makes the cell attack the protein, and cell destroys the protein instead of just being afraid and being away from it. Okay, this is how it works in very simple terms, which are in very non-biology terms. This is how I'm telling you. This drug was co-developed through a strategic pharmaceutical partnership between biotech firm Arvinas. Arvinas is a biotechnological firm. It is a pioneer of clinical PROTAC development, and Pfizer. Pfizer, you remember, for vaccines, COVID vaccines? Yeah. So Pfizer and Arvinas have completely come together and developed this. Arvinas is famous for PROTAC development, and they have developed this vepdegestrant through the PROTAC technology. What is the aim? It is specifically indicated for the treatment of patients with ESR1 mutated, ER positive, that is estrogen receptor positive, advanced or metastatic breast cancer. What is the most important term here? It is breast cancer. It will treat what? Breast cancer. Forget everything, but don't forget this. It targets what? Estrogen receptor. Don't forget this. And it frequently mutates the ESR1 gene. This gene gets mutated when the cancer is caused, and this one attacks those cells and makes it attack the wrong kind of protein. How does it work? Dual arm binding. First of all, this has two functional ends. One binds the disease causing protein, other binds the E3 ligase, and they bring both together and the protein is destroyed. One arm binds what? Disease causing protein, and second one binds the E3 ligase, and then the protein is degraded, forming the ternary complex. It binds the target protein in E3 ligase, and this is called the ternary complex. Okay, when it binds the protein and the E3 ligase together, it's called the ternary complex. Then we have the kiss of death, or ubiquitination. This E3 ligase attaches this molecule. Ubiquitin is a protein. Ubiquitin molecules to the target protein, and it permanently marks it for destruction. Once the ubiquitin is put by the E3 on the protein, it becomes a target, and the cell's protein recycling machinery recognizes the ubiquitin and targets that disease causing protein and destroys it. Then there is shredding and recycling. What are the key features? It does not inhibit, it destroys. It what? Destroys. It does not protect itself just by inhibiting. It comes and attacks and destroys completely. Catalytic efficiency. A single vepdegestrant molecule that can destroy multiple target protein. There's no need for one molecule per protein. A single molecule can destroy multiple target proteins. So it is very efficient and very effective, and even in lower doses. Convenient oral dosing. It can be taken orally. It is not digested by the gut. Again, most of them are intramuscular, but this one can be done orally. Intramuscular injections are very painful. They go very deep in the muscles. So this is not painful, this is not inconvenient, this is very convenient. Proven clinical superiority. There was a phase 3 trial conducted. It involved 624 patients, and the vepdegestrant improved their progression-free survival for 5 months. Earlier, fulvestrant was used, and it only increased the breast cancer patient survival to 2.1 months. This improved to 5 months. Manageable safety profile. Most side effects were mild, including the fatigue, nausea, muscle pain. Usually fulvestrant has heavy side effects, but this had low side effects, and there was very little change in liver enzymes or ECG findings. What is its significance to global cancer therapy? The PROTAC technology. What is this technology related to cancer therapy? The PROTAC technology enables the degradation of the protein. Previously, it was considered undruggable, and this technology has expanded the range of potential cancer drug targets. Okay, it has destroyed mutated estrogen receptors instead of merely just blocking or inhibiting them, and vepdegestrant helps overcome resistance to conventional hormone therapies in advanced breast cancers.